welcome, and I will pass it to Courtney to kind of set the tone of the meeting, and we'll go to this next slide.
Hi, everyone. Just to kind of, like Stuart said, set the tone, we're just going to read from the Aloha Spirit on Chapter 5 of Hawaiian Revised Statute. The Aloha Spirit is the coordination of mind and heart within each person. It was the working philosophy of Native Hawaiians and was presented as a gift to the people of Hawaii. Aloha means mutual regard and affection and extends warmth and caring with no obligation in return.
Thank you, Courtney. And I think adding to that, if we can just take 15 seconds and do just 15 seconds of silence in tribute and honor to those who we lost and those who were gravely affected by the fires in Lahaina and in Kula, and just hold them in our thoughts for a few seconds. All right. Thank you. Like I said, my name is Stuart Coleman, and I'm very proud to have our team with us tonight at Wastewater Alternatives and Innovations. We've got John Anner, who couldn't join us, as the co-founder, my partner, and Christina Comfort, who is traveling, but she's our water quality specialist. And we have Michelle Lee on the line, and Gabby Zimmer and Courtney Kerr, both of whom head up our Work for Water program, and our two newest hires. We have Chris McKay and Elias Miguel. So we're very glad to have this very capable team on hand to help tonight with this town hall. You can go to the next slide. And we're also glad to welcome Councilmember Tom Cook, who is the council member for South Maui and is also the Water and Infrastructure Chair. So we'll ask Tom to share a few words, and again, want to mahalo him for joining us tonight. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Stuart. I'm really happy to have the invitation. I enjoyed the conversation we had in my office with both you and Gabby. And I'm excited to basically be able to listen to Robin and Kim and potentially learn about new technologies that I'm not familiar with, that you folks are researching and getting familiar with. I can kind of, if you want, I'll give you an overview of what I've been working with environmental management and cesspools in Cove Park and in general in South Maui. Working with the department to identify what cesspools aren't hooked up, what cesspools can be hooked up to the system, especially in the more urban, denser areas where conversion isn't really an option. So if we have time, we'll get into that later, my feelings about it, and we can share some ideas about some of the challenges and opportunities we have in these areas that cesspool conversion isn't an option due to spatial considerations, not simply financial considerations. But does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I reached out to the Department of Health on September 18th, and for basically getting a handle on the state's County of Maui cesspool conversion plan. And I requested a written response to the following: what is the total number of cesspools in the county to date? Please provide a breakdown of priority 1, 2, and 3 zones. What department efforts are in place to meet the 2050 cesspool conversion deadline of Act 125, 2017. And I believe, Gabby, did you receive a
yes,
map?
sir. Would you like me to screen share?
Sure. Could you put that on?
Absolutely. There you go.
Okay, so environmental management supplied this to me. You folks can all print it and copy it because I'm going to touch upon these, but I'm not going to read every single one. So basically, the response estimated 11,038 cesspools for the island of Maui, and the breakdown per priority 1, 2, and 3 are: priority 1, 924 cesspools; priority 2, 3,148 cesspools; priority level 3, 6,971. This map doesn't reference these numbers. These numbers are basically priority 1 are the red, most hazardous and need to be addressed first. Level 2 is priority yellow, which is a lot of the ones that are further away from the coastline and our water supply, and need to be converted, but aren't as critical. And then priority level 3 is a lot of the cesspools upcountry and in the more remote areas that elevationally, ultimately they could contaminate and have impact on our groundwater supply, but they're the least problematic in the short run. And the answer to the second question, what department efforts are in place to meet the 2050 cesspool conversion deadline of Act 125? Their answer was the department is currently implementing a $5 million cesspool conversion pilot grant program to assist low and moderate income property owners with converting, upgrading, or connecting cesspools to meet the 2050 conversion deadline of Act 125. In April 2023, the department notified 225 cesspool owners they qualified for a grant. Each grant recipient is eligible to receive up to $20,000 for their cesspool conversion or connection cost. I emphasize that connection cost because I'm the focus on that. To date, the department has paid out $379,225 to 19 grantees. For the state fiscal year 2024, the department will use $3 million of the Clean Water Revolving Fund for counties to give principal forgiveness interest-free loans for cesspool conversions. The department is also considering establishing a new full-time position to manage our cesspool conversion program. The department is currently collaborating with the city and county of Honolulu, the county of Hawaiʻi, on their comprehensive wastewater management plans that include cesspool conversions for their respective counties. We highly recommend that the county of Maui also consider developing a similar comprehensive wastewater management plan that includes cesspool conversions. And then should you have any further things, so Kenneth Fink, Maui Director of Health. So I think that gives sort of an overview of the magnitude on the island that I know you folks are very familiar with. And part of this was my getting sort of educated and up to date with what the current status is on Maui. I'm working with Shane Ogawa at the Environmental Management. I requested that he provide to us the sewage system for the Cove Park, South Maui area. And it was interesting to note, can you folks hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Am I boring you yet?
Yeah.
just a little humor to kind of like make sure I'm not talking to myself. Okay, so this is Shane. This is from Shane. Attached is a diagram showing 60 cesspools in the Cove Park area. Pending further analysis, we believe 15 are definitely connected. And okay, this is for a point of reference. These are the cesspools that are shown as category 1 that are not on the state map as basically currently connected to the sewer system. So these, I'm going to read off this list. Several of these have already been connected, and I'll read this and you'll see. Okay, 15 are definitely connected. 7 are most likely connected, need verification bill adjustments. 7 need a private project to connect 7 or 8 units on one lot the sewer fronts property on 77 Akuhana, and they're going to send letters requesting the connection. 18 others need to get letters to make them connect, including the Fuji subdivision. 13, 2 potential projects in the area. These both involve mostly private property for easements, lines, and or pump systems. Rough estimate, $300 to $400 each. Best suited for private low pressure sewers to be owned and maintained by the owners, and they don't think we get paid for it. So in general, I found it sort of enlightening and encouraging that one, Wastewater has a very good handle on the system. I asked for this and I received it the next day. I did tell them I needed it promptly, so I'm very grateful with short notice. But many of the cesspools in this area that were believed to not be connected are, and the way they find that out is if they're getting a sewer bill. So they cross-reference the TMKs, these lots, whether they're paying a sewer bill. That's how they determined, yes, they're hooked up. The ones that were sort of a question mark is they have a water bill and they need to cross-reference it. But anyway, I hope you folks enjoy this. That's my update. Did some research. I'm very pleased with our wastewater division and the efforts that they're making. They have grown and improved exponentially from over the last 10 years. And as they should have, because they really needed to up their game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just sort of this. I'll follow along with you folks, and I'd like to respond to more what you're curious about that I may know something about rather than just keep talking.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Cook. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts. And we will, is Senator McKelvey, we know he was traveling and logged on earlier. Is he back?
I'm not seeing him, but once he enters, we can give him the floor.
Or we can, yeah, just acknowledge him and then go when we do the question and answers. So we knew he was traveling. All right, so we'll go. We're pleased to have his office represented here, and then we're going to have a Q&A panel with Kim Falinski at the Nature Conservancy and Robin Knox at Water Quality Consulting as we move forward. And then just to give you an overview of who we are and what we do, we're a nonprofit and we're dedicated to protecting water quality, reducing sewage pollution, and restoring watersheds by providing something that was missing for a long time in Hawaii, really innovative and affordable and environmentally friendly solutions for wastewater. And our aim is to help Hawaii homeowners and communities with what is really kind of a difficult and has been a little opaque process of converting cesspools and failing septic systems across the state to better technology. And we do this through 5 programs: outreach and education, like town halls. Like tonight, we have brought in innovative technology and introduced a number of new technologies to Hawaii in the past 3 years, which we're excited about, and we'll tell you a little more later on. And then we have pilot projects in the ground across the state. And then we work with a number of people on the call, like Tapani Vuari and Kim and Erica Perez at Coral, and a number of other people on policy and advocacy at the state and county levels. And then we also are always looking for financial resources to help Hawaii's homeowners, the communities, and the counties with the cost of converting these cesspools. And tonight, just to give you an overview, we're going to talk about the cesspool issue and impacts, because there's a lot of misunderstandings, to tell you the truth, about cesspools. And so we want to be very clear that we're all on the same page. We're going to talk about legislations, that the latest legislation that's been passed across the state and over the last 5 years that's relevant to each of us. And then we'll talk about priority areas, technologies, financial assistance, assistance in our Work for Water program, which is really become like a model, not only for the state of Hawaii, but nationally. We've gotten a lot of recognition, and then we'll have our Q&A at the end. And I'll pass it over for our poll.
Mahalo, Stuart. So we are going to launch a brief poll to help us better understand your needs. Please select the answer that best represents you. You will notice the first question, you can select multiple answers, so please select all that apply. There will also be multiple choice questions where we'll ask you to rank how much you agree or disagree with each of the statements on a scale of strongly disagree, disagree, neither disagree nor agree to strongly agree. As I launch the poll, remember if you are on your phone or just on a laptop or tablet or computer to scroll down to make sure you see all of the questions. If you're on a different type of device, it's not your standard type of computer, you may need to rotate your screen to be horizontal. And if you have any questions or setbacks or any tech issues, please just let us know in the chat. And then remember to return to the poll by selecting the More button if you need any help.
Thank you, Gabby. And we generally try to get, we aim for 80% participation because these are, it's good information, good data for us, feedback about perceptions about cesspools and everything. So we appreciate you taking part in it. And there's also that thing that we have grant deliverables, and we need to show that there's engagement from our members.
Absolutely. Helps us to refine and improve our town halls.
Yes.
We're at about 58%, so we'll give another minute or two.
And we joke that it's like a telethon. Light up those lines, everybody, make sure you participate. And Tapani, we're watching you. And you have to be involved as well. Just kidding. We like to tease our friends.
Okay, last minute here. Okay, we are at 87%. Thank you all for submitting your final answers.
Mahalo. All right. Now we're going to talk briefly about the cesspool impacts and some of the basic legislation that's come back and information about this. So sorry, I might have jumped ahead.
That's all right. We'll watch a brief video that Sea Grant created to help us understand what a cesspool is and some of the impacts.
Cesspool construction was recently banned in Hawaii. But what is a cesspool and what problems do they cause? A cesspool is basically a covered hole in the ground. It is sometimes lined with brick or concrete. Open joints in the lining allow liquid and solid waste to seep through. Cesspools are designed to dispose of waste, but not to treat it. If you have a cesspool, when you flush your toilet, use your kitchen sink, take a shower, or do laundry, untreated wastewater and gray water is directed into this hole underground. Human waste moves away from the cesspool through Hawaii's porous lava rock. Eventually, it reaches the water underground and contaminates it with dangerous pathogens and household chemicals. Because we live on islands, everything is interconnected. We rely on underground aquifers for our drinking water. Water from these aquifers is also connected to the ocean through a process called submarine groundwater discharge. When pollution from cesspools travels in water underground, it impairs our drinking water sources and negatively impacts our ocean ecosystems. Human waste contains viruses and bacteria that can make us sick if we consume water contaminated with them. Our waste naturally contains nutrients like nitrogen, that can wreak havoc on coral reefs by causing algal blooms. The medications we take and personal care products we use can also negatively impact Hawaii's plants and animals. Hawaii has over 83,000 cesspools that contribute an estimated 52 million gallons of raw sewage into our environment every day. Because of these impacts, cesspools are required to be replaced with more effective forms of wastewater treatment by 2050. To continue to protect our health, that of our loved ones, and of our environment, cesspools need to be upgraded as soon as possible. For more information on cesspools in your neighborhood, visit hawaiicesspooltool.org. This video was produced by the Hawaii Department of Health, University of Hawaii Sea Grant College Program, and the Water Resources Research Center at the University of Hawaii.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And just so we're all on the same page, kind of want to go over the differences between a cesspool and a septic tank. Just to reiterate what the video talked about, there is no treatment that's done in a cesspool, and Hawaii has the highest number of cesspools per capita in the country. And some of these have, are solidly built and to the existing standards. Many are not. Many were just hole in the grounds and pose like physical safety hazards. I happen to know personally 2 people who've fallen into, thank God, abandoned cesspools that were no longer being used, but structurally were not sound. And a septic tank, all the house waste goes into the tank, and there's a baffle in between, and there are 2 sections of the tank. And so the solids settle to the bottom, and then the effluent goes out to an outlet into a leach field, which is also known as a drain field or a dispersal system. And that's where you get further treatment, microbial treatment in the soils that gets rid of, a majority of the pathogens. And we'll talk about, the limits of what some of the septic tanks do as well. All right, and on the next slide, we talked briefly about legislation. So we can go to the next slide. This is just going to give you a timeline of what has happened. So beginning in 2016, they passed Act 120, which banned the construction of new cesspools and offered homeowners $10,000 tax breaks to upgrade their systems. Again, we were the last country to do that by over 3.5 decades. So we were way behind. But we are quickly catching up. In 2017, we passed Act 125 that mandated the upgrade of all cesspools by 2050. And then in 2018, we passed Act 132, which created the Cesspool Conversion Working Group. And there are a number of members here tonight on the town hall that were part of that, including myself and several other people, Erica from Coral and others on the call. And then in 2022, there was 3 bills that were passed after the Conversion Working Group was finishing up, and that was bills that I'll talk a little bit more about coming up in the next slide. All right, let's move a little bit quicker. Yeah, and so we were able to pass HB 2195, which became Act 153, to provide up to $20,000 grants or rebates to low and moderate income homeowners. Just to tell you how popular that program was, they allotted $5 million for it, and it was gone in 3 to 4 days. There were that many people that took advantage of it. So we hope going into this next session to pass an extension of that and keep this going, because it's definitely in demand. People need help converting their cesspools. And then the other 2 bills just permitted new technology beyond septic systems and aerobic treatment units, and then a way to finance improvements. But this is for businesses. HB 2088 was for property owners, commercial property owners, to finance, and that's called a CPACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy. And so we hope to eventually pass an RPACE bill for residents. So we'll go to the next one. And then moving forward, last year we had a bill that was an omnibus bill. It got all the way through the House and the Senate, and then literally died the last day of session in conference committee. And that was House Bill 1396. And it has many of our top priorities from the cesspool conversion working group that we will be bringing back this year. The most important is creating a new cesspool section within DOH. They definitely are going to need more full-time staff to help with this. If we're doing about 200 conversions a year, to meet the deadline of converting them all by 2050, we'll need to be doing more than 3,000. So closer to 4,000. So that's, 20 times the rate that we're going at now. And then we'll try to do pilot projects to expand the county sewer systems and create decentralized systems. And we'll also, work with doing outreach to the public to explain to them why it's so important that we're doing what we do, the health and environmental reasons. And then we're also looking at income tax credits for converting cesspools and seller disclosure forms, excuse me. Yeah, and then we'll talk more about that.
Mahalo, Stuart. So now we'll talk a little bit about some of the cesspool conversion priority areas. Act 125 required the Department of Health to evaluate residential cesspools in the state and develop a report to the legislature that includes a prioritization method for the cesspool upgrades. As Councilmember Cook mentioned earlier, these priority areas were determined through a data-driven process, and 15 statewide data layers with relevance to cesspool hazards were overlain with cesspool locations in a code-based geospatial tool. With expert input, these risk factors were weighed accordingly to their significance of environmental and human health impacts. There are 3 zones that indicate the level of conversion priority. You can see here in red, priority level 1. These cesspools have the greatest potential to impact human health and the environment and are directly adjacent to sensitive natural resources like coral reefs or drinking water aquifers. In the orange areas that you'll see there, those cesspools are ranked behind priority 1, but they still pose a significant hazard to human health and environmental health. Priority 2 cesspools may be close to sensitive natural resources like streams or drinking water aquifers. And then finally, priority level 3 in yellow, these cesspools have an impact on human health and the environment, but they may be further away from sensitive natural resources or areas that directly impact human health. What you'll notice on the next slides, the next map you'll see here, this is Ma'alaya and Laniupoko. The map you see is actually a screenshot taken from the prioritization tool, and it is one of the areas that is identified as priority 1 on Maui. Here you can see about 78 cesspools within this area that discharge an estimate of 46,800 gallons per day of untreated effluent into the environment. You can click on the link right here in green where you say see Sea Grant Prioritization Tool website. That's where you can learn more about the factors, more about the web tool. And I'm so happy you asked, Bill. Yes, we are going to send a copy of these slides to all of you. So I'm going to kind of skip through these next ones quickly, but rest assured you will get a copy of this entire slide deck. That includes the link right there to the Sea Grant website where you can learn more about the tool itself, use the tool, and review the final report. So the next area that we'll show you here is just another priority area in South Maui, priority area 1. You can see in this screenshot, there's about 308 cesspools. So we're estimating about 184,800 gallons of untreated effluent per day that is being released into the environment. Again, you can click on that Sea Grant Tool website link when we send out the slides. And finally, this is Wailea. This is technically considered priority 2, but you can see it overlaps with some priority 1. They don't overlap, they butt up against each other. But in the image, you can see both. And here, even though it is priority number 2, I would like to note that there are 659 cesspools. And so we're estimating about 395,400 gallons per day of untreated effluent into the environment. And I will toss it over to Stuart, who can talk a little bit more about our current projects and progress with Ma'alaya.
Thank you, Gabby. And, if you have questions in the chat, we can type them in, and then we'll be having a Q&A where we'll respond to them. But if we look at the next slide, we can talk about a featured project that we're doing for wastewater reuse, working with the Malaya Village Association, and Tapani is a member of that. And they have 86,000 gallons per day going into injection wells in Malaya. There are 20 plus injection wells. 11 or 12 of them are actively being used by the condos and by the businesses in that area. In Malaya, they're kind of the two greatest contributors to poor water quality, and Kim is going to talk about this a little bit later. Sedimentation and wastewater nutrients. And wastewater contributes 17% of the nitrogen and 73% of the phosphorus flux to the nearshore system. And another Malaya Village Association member, Peter Cannon, who grew up there and swam there as a boy, said, that there were reefs. It was like swimming in Tahiti. There were fish all over and beautiful, pristine reefs. And just in his lifetime, the coral coverage has just declined dramatically, I think down to 8%. And so the injection well is already linked to algal overgrowth in the bay. And we see that, decline from 50 to 8% in recent decades. This is, our coral reefs are our protection. They're not only vitally, important culturally, environmentally, and economically, but they are our protection from floods and storms and such. We can go to the next slide. And so we've been working the last 3 years with Peter and Tapani and Travis and others to build a decentralized system that uses the treated wastewater to irrigate a green belt, which can also serve as a fire break. And this, of course, has become incredibly timely after the Lahaina fires. And so we're working with a number of different technologies here that are really exciting. And we've been listed on the EPA's state revolving funds. And we've got a commitment from the mayor, Mayor Beeson, to move forward with this. So this is going to be exciting because it will prove to be a model not only for Hawaii, but potentially the rest of the country. And then finally, we just want to show these are the contacts. And again, this will be in the slides. They're sent out to you. And we just want people to really let their representative senators and county council members know about their concerns so that we can really move forward on this issue, because we've kicked the can down the road way too long, and it's time to move forward on this issue. And am I doing 24? No, is this where we introduce Kim? Oh, Courtney. Courtney, you're muted. Okay, it says there's a lapse, so I will do 24, sorry. There is a recent article that was published in Hawaii Business Magazine that I wrote about a big publication that Kim and others worked on about how nutrient loading from cesspools, septic systems, and injection wells has really led to coral reef decline across the state. And they have all kinds of groups that show, the high kind of scores that these are getting. So I'll pass it on to our next presenter.
Hi, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'm Kim Falinski. I work at the Nature Conservancy, but I'm also a technical lead for Hui o Kawaiola, which is your local community group in Leeward Maui, in Kihei and West Maui, doing water quality assessment. And I've been thinking about water quality for a long time in West Maui. And I wanted to just show a little bit of what we know about why. So we've heard so far that cesspools are eliminated. We've seen kind of how they work. But why, right? Why invest in upgrading our systems? And when we look at the reef, we have a lot of evidence statewide that the reef is affected by nutrient pollution. So here's some examples. These are Big Island examples right there. But no matter where you look in the state, you're going to see this impacts from wastewater and other kind of nutrient and contamination pollution. Next slide, please. So why? Why are nutrients bad? Nutrients are bad because corals are really, really sensitive, and it doesn't take an awful lot of nutrients in the environment in order to change how the symbionts, the little guys who live inside of the coral reef itself, are affected by that. So if you have too much nutrients, you get bacterial overgrowth, and it negatively affects the little guys inside that are producing the food to make the coral grow. Next slide. Research is really conclusive that when you have a lot of nutrients, we also see that bioerosion happens, meaning that you get more urchins, you get more things that are able to break down a more brittle reef. And this is a Maui example right here. Next slide, please. Why else? So if you have excess nutrients, you're also going to see that you're going to have more coral disease. So this is specifically in relation to wastewater. You're not just putting down nutrients, you're not just going to the bathroom, but you're also putting down whatever you put down your sink, whatever you put down your drains at all, right? All your washing machines, all the pharmaceuticals that go through your body, lots of things are going down. So this study from Pu'oko on the Big Island shows that you have more and more disease as you have impacts from cesspools in particular. Next slide. This may seem like a laundry list, but it really takes a lot to prove that it's cesspools in particular and wastewater in particular that's causing the problem. So this really big study that Stuart's talking about that was published in Nature a couple of weeks ago showed we took all of this data from coral reefs over a 20-year period. And then we looked at the trends over time of how those reefs survive the climate change problems we're seeing. So how it survived the 2015 bleaching event, how those reefs survived the 2019 bleaching event. And this paper looked at all of the reefs going from the entire leeward coast of Hawaii Island and looked at the impacts of sedimentation, the impacts of wastewater, the impacts of land development, just looking at land development all by itself. And it considered the trajectory of those reefs in relation to how much fish they had. So the other argument you can say is, well, if you have no fish, then the reef's going to do poorly. And next slide, please. What this study found after a whole lot of data crunching, is that the two things that make the biggest difference for your reef is whether it has herbivorous fish and whether it's missing wastewater. So if you have wastewater on your reef, the chances of it recovering from a bleaching event is going to be a whole lot less. Now, to take such a big data set and to look over 20 years, this paper made it to this data set made it to Nature because we're able to finally look at say, what can we do here? What can we actually do to improve the reef? And that wastewater pollution and urban runoff actually was the top two things that we could do to remove from the land side, in addition from the ocean side, to try to make sure we keep our herbivores in the ocean. Next slide. So this is a kahikili example, and I wanted to just come back to the wastewater issue, because you could say, well, we've had sugar for all these years, still in our water. And it's true. We can still see all of the herbicides. We can still see a lot of the agricultural nutrients in your water. Maybe not on the side of Maui Meadow side, but you can definitely see them on the North Kihei side. But the thing that's special about wastewater is that's coming with pharmaceuticals, and you can actually measure them. We have measured them in front of Ulua, in front of Wailea, and you can see pharmaceuticals in the water off the shore there. Next slide. Small fact, you can even see them at Molokini because there's so many tourists out there. It actually can translate. So to go along with all of the work in the legislation, one other study that was done statewide to try to verify whether those priority areas really made sense was this really complicated chart here. And that happened because we went around the state, and Act 125 was, or sorry, it says 132, but I think it was 125. that went around and collected algal samples from all these sites at all these places. And I'm just highlighting for you guys the data that popped to the top of all these sites. This is entirely Hawaiian island wide. Those M's are Maui and South Kihei, and Wailea came to the top as the sites that were most likely to have wastewater contributions. So I wanted to put that there, that Kihei and Wailea did come up on the map, notoriously next to Oahu's windward side and Puako on Hawaii Island. Next slide. So because I'm part of Hui Ko'aiole, this year we had our 100th sampling event right before the fire. We all were able to get together. I saw many of you in person, and we were really proud. Hui Ko'aiole is a group that was formed in, I think, 2015 now. They're volunteer based. We base out of the Humpback Whale Sanctuary in Kihei, and we're sampling up to 41 sites. We'll have 41 sites in February. And we've in many ways taken over the job of some of the Department of Health that didn't have the capacity to monitor. So I want to say that this group has been really trying to embed ourselves in the community to try to track changes in nutrients over time. And so in order to honor that group, I wanted to show you guys the data that we've collected. And we stopped sampling at Ulua and Wailea in 2020 because of funding issues, but we're starting up again soon. So next slide. So what we're seeing is we could actually see the difference over time. So this is here, you guys can review it later in your slide pack. I want you to see how bad Cove Park is next to everybody else. That's where the wastewater reclamation facility is. And that the injection well there comes through the groundwater. But you can also see Ulua and Wailea Park kind of leading the pack there on the south coast. So it's not that you can definitely still see the impacts, the nitrate impacts. So nitrate is the form of nutrients that comes from wastewater. So even though Cove Park with its big injection well kind of dominates the South Shore nutrient profile, Ulua Park definitely is noted here. The second thing I want to show that isn't on this graph is that when we do our resilience sites, when we go and snorkel in the water and look at the reef, Ulua is on the verge of tipping. So the reef off of Ulua once was well, but it's in that like 5 years, in a span of 5 years, it really is on the verge of tipping. So next slide. The last thing is I just wanted to show that during COVID, there was definitely a dip right in deep COVID of our nitrate data. So you could see that as people were around less and the tourism was around less, we actually can see that in our data. So with that, I think that was my last slide here. Maybe there's one more, I can't remember. I want you guys to have these slides for home because this is our most common data. But please ask me questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. Thanks for sharing that great data. We'll pass it to Courtney.
Okay, hi. So this next section will review some of the cesspool conversion technology options. So septic tanks are the most well-known and the most common conversion option for cesspools. Unfortunately, these cesspools provide minimum treatment and leach nutrients and pathogens, which can pollute soil and water resources. The goal of innovative options is to remove nitrogen and chemicals of emerging concerns. Examples of DOH-approved technologies include aerobic treatment units that are used instead of a septic tank, and technologies that are used alongside a septic tank, like the layer cake model, sand filters, and nature-based systems. One cesspool conversion options are ATUs, aerobic treatment units, like the FujiClean, which are alternatives to septic tanks that use chambers to add or remove oxygen to increase microorganisms to break down organic matter and nutrients. While the ATU is used instead of a septic tank, the next three systems are used with a septic tank. Elgin has an approved system called the Geotextile Sand Filters, or GSF. This slide allows for a modular approach. This system allows for a modular approach. And by using these rectangular filters that you can see at the bottom of the screen, they can be placed in varying configurations depending on site conditions. The GSF system percolates the wastewater after a septic tank into different layers into these rectangle filters to filter out contaminants and creating and enhancing the leach field for the higher treatment. Because of the more effective treatment, the system could reduce a leach field by 40%, which is the most expensive component of an on-site system. Recently, WAI worked with Elgin to replace an existing cesspool at a home in Hawaii Paradise Park on Hawaii Island. The system was donated by Elgin and ACSI to a local veteran. Another system is the Ridge to Reef bioreactor gardens, which are a passive nature-based system that filters effluent after a septic tank through 3 layers of vegetation, soil, and wood chips. And it utilizes the filtering and nutrient removal power of plants. WAI is working with Ridge to Reef on a technical assistant project to design a wastewater solution for 3 communities in Maui, Kauai, and Hawaii Island. One of our newest partners, Leapfrog, is also a nature-based system that currently only cleans gray water, but a kitchen blackwater cleaning system is coming next year. The system has a small footprint, and the water can be reused in toilet flushing and irrigation. To convert a whole home, this system could be paired with an incinerator or composting toilet, which we'll cover next. Composting toilets are toilets that compost and break down waste by adding wood chips. They are sometimes approved by the DOH, but are considered hazardous, and as of now, the compost cannot legally be used for agricultural purposes. Incineration toilets, like the Cinderella system shown here, use heat and combustion to break down human waste into water, carbon dioxide, and ash. This sterilized ash can then be disposed in a normal household trash, and incinerated toilets do have limits on their frequency and require electricity. Just a side note on these alternative toilets, they do only deal with waste from toilets and not from other wastewater sources from the house like sinks or washing machines. So a septic tank or an innovative technology like Leapfrog is still required for a home conversion. All of the systems I've covered so far have been conversion options for individual homes. The next section will look at community scale wastewater systems called cluster systems or decentralized systems, which convert usually between 20 or 200 homes. Orenco has a system called a pressurized liquid-only sewer, or PRELUS, where wastewater from an individual home is directed to a tank to retain the sludge, and then the liquid effluent is pumped through a small diameter pipe to a small-scale treatment facility where the water can be treated for reuse. These systems are likely the best option for Hawaii to reach the 2050 mandate of converting all 83,000 cesspools. Our next partner, Cloacina, is a great example of one of these treatment facilities. So Cloacina creates a stainless steel packaged treatment plant that are corrosive resistant and can be monitored remotely. These are compact plants that are pre-designed, but can be tailored to meet a community's needs. So with that, I'll pass it on to Gabby to review financial assistance options.
Mahalo, Courtney. WAI is seeking funding sources to help homeowners with the process of converting their cesspools and failing septic systems. We're working with the EPA, the DOH, the USDA's Rural Development Office, and private foundations to bring together federal, state, and philanthropic funding to help homeowners. Because cesspools can have a negative environmental impact, the United States Department of Agriculture recognizes this issue and offers financial assistance through grants and loans for these conversions. The Water and Waste Disposal Loan and Grant Program supports the development of water and waste disposal systems in rural areas. The program can provide funding for cesspool conversion projects. Typically, the funding comes in the form of loans, and these low-interest loans have a typical interest rate between 1 to 3% annually. The area that you see here shaded on the map over by Kahului in orange is not considered a rural area or eligible for these programs. To be eligible for the Section 504 loan and/or grant, the applicant must live in a rural area and meet certain eligibility requirements. If you are interested in finding out more about this funding option, you can visit the link within the slide that you see in blue there, or you can reach out to us at WAI and we'd be happy to help you with the application process. In March of this year, the DOH launched a cesspool pilot grant program that we've mentioned earlier to assist property owners with converting cesspools. That program had a total of $5 million and it was allocated on a first come, first served basis and was all allocated in under 2 weeks of launching the program. This overwhelming amount of interest in the grant program demonstrates the need for more financial assistance to help homeowners. WAI hopes that the legislature will fund the program again in this next year. Grants or forgivable loans are needed for those who are unable to repay loans or are ineligible for the USDA rural loan programs. One opportunity is the use of the Clean Water State Revolving Funds for cesspool conversions through forgivable loans. WAI is actively working on legislature to include more grant and loan programs. Next, we'll talk about the Work for Water program. We are so excited to announce our new Work for Water program, which offers a unique opportunity for workforce development in Maui. The Work for Water program is a free course that is aimed at inspiring individuals to join the wastewater industry. The goal of our program is to address the critical technician workforce shortage required to replace all 83,000 cesspools with individual wastewater systems or other conversion options by 2050, as mandated by the Hawaiʻi State Legislature Act 125. And with clean water and wastewater management services on the rise, there is no better time to join this wastewater industry. The program is being funded by the Department of Labor, and we have partnered with the University of Hawaiʻi, Hawaiʻi Community College in Hilo, and the University of Hawaiʻi Maui College. To give you a little bit about our course overview, the Work for Water program is an entry-level free introduction course that will cover wastewater management and the career options in Hawaiʻi. It is an 8-week hybrid course that takes place both online and in person. There will be 3 separate cohorts of learning on both Maui and Hawaiʻi Island, specifically at the University of Hawaiʻi Maui College for in-person events. The program is off to a fantastic start. We just celebrated a successful first cohort that ended this past November, and we're currently enrolling participants and accepting applications for cohort 2 that will begin this January 10th. Cohort 3 will take place in 2024. And topics for this program include wastewater pollution, Hawaiʻi wastewater problems and policies, design, installation, operation, and maintenance of on-site systems, career opportunities, and preparedness. We'll talk more about the benefits and things like that, but if you are interested or if you have a network or community that you might be able to share some of our outreach materials, please reach out to us. We would love to share all of the materials we've created with you. We're really trying to get as many people aware and increase the visibility of this program as possible. There are many benefits of the program. This program will equip participants with the foundational knowledge and skills needed to enter or advance within the wastewater industry workforce. By participating in the program, participants will take the first step into pursuing a career in the wastewater industry, and these positions offer competitive salaries and a stable and rewarding career path. The program will provide resources and support for individual career pathways into wastewater management fields that include design, installation, inspection, operations, and maintenance, among other different jobs and careers within the field. Another one of the many benefits of participating in the program is the opportunity to network and connect with potential employers. The final unit of the course explores a variety of the professional roles within the decentralized wastewater industry and the pathways that students must pursue to advance within the industry. Each student will chart a course that might include future education, on-the-job training, apprenticeships, and/or immediate employment. The course also provides opportunities for students to develop connections with industry partners, and it culminates in a networking career expo event where students can connect with field experts and employers. At the end of the course, each participant will earn an industry-recognized certificate of completion and a $500 stipend. One of the most important benefits, and my favorite, is the positive community impact that is made by protecting Hawaii's natural resources. Before we move on to our Q&A session, we would like to take one last brief poll. And before I do that, I'm just going to say one more time, if you are interested in the program, please apply. And if you know anybody that might be, or if you have a network or community that you could share our outreach materials, please let us know. We would love to reach out to you and share those with you. So for our last poll, it's going to pop right up once I can launch it for you. It's going to be similar questions to the ones that we asked at the very beginning of this meeting. All questions will be multiple choice, so please select the answers that best represent you. Similar to the pre-poll questions, there will be 3 multiple choice questions where we will ask you to rank how much you disagree or agree with each of the statements on a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree. Each statement will ask you to rank how much your awareness has increased after attending this meeting. Finally, there is one last question to gauge your interest in the Work for Water program. If you or someone you may know is interested, please select one of the yes multiple choice options. There's also an optional fill in the blank where we kindly ask you to please share the best form of contact. That can be an email or a phone number, whatever's the best way for us to contact you so we can share more information with you. We would love to share our outreach materials with you. We would love to just mahalo you for being interested and sharing your contact information with us. So please remember, if you're taking this poll, to scroll down and make sure you see all of the questions. We'll leave this up for just another minute or two. And if you are done answering the poll and you have some questions for our Q&A, we will have a Q&A starting in about 2 to 3 minutes once this poll is done. So you can start please submitting your questions in the chat. If you'll just type them out and put them in the chat, we'll go over and read the questions that have been asked so far, especially the ones we haven't gotten to yet. Any questions we aren't able to get to today, or one that we may not have an immediate answer for, we will follow up with you and follow up in a email where we'll send the slide deck, this recording, and some frequently asked questions and some answers for you all. Just wanted to share a big mahalo nui loa for your time and participation tonight. We will start our Q&A in about 2 minutes, so please start putting your questions in the chat. Mahalo for sharing your contact information and for being here today.
And while we're finishing up the poll and we want to get to at least 80%, and we're at 71%, so we just need a few more people to do that. We will, after we do this, and before we start the Q&A, we'll just welcome Senator McKelvey to say a few words, and then we'll open it up for your questions. This is the time to jump in and get engaged. And we have people tuning in who are from all across the country. One is tuning in from Florida, I think. So we're pleased to have people and all across the state as well. So we appreciate you showing up. Daniel Ye, thank you for joining us all the way from University of South Florida.
Hey, Stuart. Hey, everyone. How are you doing?
Good to see you.
Aloha, Daniel. We'll do about 30 more seconds. Maybe we should get Stuart to sing and then see how many people will answer.
Oh, that'll end it fast. People will do to avoid that. And as we wrap up the poll, is Senator McKelvey, are you there and ready to say a few words? Senator Mack, we have you, but you're muted, so we need you to unmute.
Okay, I'm going to end the poll. If you are not done or you would like to reach out and share your contact information, you can scan that QR code or email us at info@vaicleanwater.org.
Great. Thank you, Gabby. And we have Senator McKelvey as one of the participants, but we I don't know if he can say a few words or not. So just chime in when you're ready, Senator. And then let's open up the questions. If you can direct it to somebody, if you can, that would be great. Otherwise, we can start. And so what questions are we going to start with first, team? Chris, you want to highlight the questions we're going through first?
I apologize. I have been talking to myself and have been muted. One of the questions at the beginning of the presentation, somebody asked if there's a reason we're not asking legislation to require point of sale conversions. And so I explained that HB 1396 did include a recommendation to require information regarding cesspools to be included in seller disclosure forms. Unfortunately, that bill did not pass. And so we are hoping to introduce or propose a similar bill in this next legislature. There have been, yeah, sorry, Stuart, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just wanted to say, a new study just came out today on Oahu showing that homes with cesspools near the coast had a lower value they've determined over the last, I think it was, the scale was 15 years, but we'll be sharing that on our social media and website. So that was interesting. I think people are getting word that this is, you know, something that like is a concern for all people, including home buyers.
Mahalo, Stuart. Another question was about Maui Meadows, if it was a priority 2 area in orange, and what the required conversion dates are. We will be sending, I have seen a few people ask, yes, we will be sending the slides and this recording. In the slides, there will also be links like the one I just included in the chat, which is a link to the cesspool prioritization tool where you can look at, I saw somebody else asked about haiku. You can go on and you can look at any location that you'd like across the islands. Yes, Robin, please go ahead. Oh, I'm going to ask you to unmute though.
There we go.
Yeah.
I just wanted to address the question from Maui Meadows because it is a question that occurs often of, you know, well, is my cesspool a problem? Because here's my situation. And yes, it's great that, you know, trees take up nutrients. But the big picture, when you look at, like when I first learned about all the cesspools, I found out I was looking at it from a watershed basis. And if you look at South Maui, you know, all the things that you saw earlier were like, here's the priority, you know, 3 upcountry, here's the priority 1 down by the coast. And those are based on different kinds of human health risk. You know, is it gonna put pollutants out into the water where we're swimming and we'll get bacterial infections? Or is it gonna put nitrates into our drinking water and cause health problems? But the big picture is that it's all going downhill into the ocean. And out of all of those 12,000 something cesspools on Maui, 8,500 of them discharged to South Maui ocean waters. So even though it might seem like, well, I'm upcountry, so I'm so far away, mine doesn't count, or I've got trees, so mine doesn't count. The problem is the cumulative amount that does get through and down to the ocean is what causes the damage to the coral reefs. And there was also a study done many years ago that looked at 2 different condominiums in South Maui that were identical, built by the same builder. And one was by an area where the water quality was impaired, lots of algae blooms, and the coral was damaged. And the other one had clear water, clean water, and didn't have that kind of damage. And the property value where there's clean water is greater. You know, so it's not on the individual scale that it's a problem. If we all lived many, many, many miles apart from each other and had plenty of space, then maybe it wouldn't be such a bad deal to have a cesspool. But the fact is we have a population that has grown and continues to grow. And we have these other sources contaminating our groundwater too, like the injection wells. So it all adds up. So even if a particular cesspool or a particular homeowner might be a Manini part of it, in the big picture, especially in South Maui, we are getting a lot of sewage effluent into our ocean waters here. So anyway, just wanted to share that watershed-based view of it.
Mahalo nui, Robin. We appreciate your expertise and your insight. Some of the other questions that I've seen in the chat so far, what is the deadline for conversions? That is 2050 as of right now for all 3 priority areas. I'm also noticing Ooh, how long does a loan process take from application to approval, and who qualifies in terms of low interest loans? What is considered low income? If you would like to reach out to WAI, we'd be happy to help you see if you are qualified and how we can best support you in applying for these loans. In terms of the loan process, I'm just asking maybe if you could clarify, you're talking about the USDA loans? Another question was,
Gabby, I'll,
Stu,
if I
go ahead,
can,
please.
yeah, just jump in
in.
on that. One thing that, you know, Senator McKelvey and Councilmember Cook can help us with, and I think all of us can really, I think, put some pressure on. Right now, the USDA is has these rural loans, and yet they only process. I think last year they said they only did 22 or 23, and we've got 88,000, and there are partly some logistical reasons like value of houses being too high, you know, in Hawaii, and the value of the land, so people don't qualify. But I think we really need to work with USDA because there's a lot of money there and it's not getting to the people it needs to. So we need to change the kind of requirements that they have for people to be eligible. I think that's something that we can all work on together.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry everybody. I'm sorry I'm having some technical issues. No, I just wanted to just say that, yeah, no, that's something we definitely be happy to support you on from the state side, is to change that USDA requirement. It came up actually with another group as well earlier today. So there's clearly concerted, they're the focal point of a lot of things right now. So it's good you bring that up. And yes, I'm very happy to be working with you and others on that.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us and for working on that. Other questions?
So we do have a question from Tapani. How many cesspools have been converted so far on Maui? If 11,038 cesspools in Maui and the cost of converting is 50,000, then the total funding needed is 551,900 billion, and we will convert at minimum 424 cesspools per year. What is our plan to execute this?
And I'll jump in, and then would love Kim, because Kim is also not only a really just world-class scientist, but she's also an engineer. And Tapani, 50,000 is the upper end. And you know, we haven't seen anything lower than 20,000. So generally we say it's between 25 to 45, depending, you know, on the property and how many bedrooms it has, the soil type, if there's a lot of slope, you know, if it's a very difficult topography, all those factors. But yeah, 50 would be on the very highest end. Kim, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tapani. And it's always the first thing you do is calculate, like, oh my God, these numbers are really, really big. I want to highlight how well Tom Cook presented. When we did a survey in West Maui, we did a paper on West Maui to try to see like which of these options and how much would it cost. The paper was led by Megan Barnes, and I can forward it around. And what we found is out of the 340 cesspools that were supposed to be in West Maui, I think something like only 60 were actually still cesspools. And that's because the data to say how those conversions are happening is happening in real time, right? And the record keeping is a little bit squirrely. The second thing I want to highlight is that there's been a traditional method like Kihei Reclamation Facility of having this really big facility, right? 4 million gallons a day of collecting things, or having a cesspool where you deal with your 60 gallons a day on your property. But what Stuart and guys is really good at is advocating for those middle solutions of saying, hey, maybe there's a decentralized system in the middle that will reduce everybody's costs and make it so that we can kind of have the benefits of pooling our wastewater together, but maybe not the cost of individual upgrades that go along with that. So I think that offers an extra kind of opportunity here that needs to be explored and might reduce that cost down even further. So the combination of it maybe not being that number and really needing a little bit of work to get there, and then how do we come down to community scale designs that can reduce those numbers even more? But that's my thoughts.
Thank you. And Robin, do you want to add something?
I'm a big fan. Thank you, Kim, for that. I'm a big fan of that kind of, decentralized but aggregate treatment system that, because you get a better level of treatment. So it's not only that you can reduce the cost and reduce maybe the space requirements that are like Tom was talking about. There's some areas that you just can't put a septic tank in. But if you can, get a neighborhood together, you can have more actual treatment and reduce costs and space requirements. So there's some real win-wins out there.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for that, Robin. And I want to acknowledge, we have folks here from Pula, and we have folks from Maui Meadows, and Maalaya and Kihei, who we've been working with on these issues to try to come up with some decentralized solutions and try to get federal grants involved. So we appreciate them joining and being leaders in your community.
Hey, Stuart,
Yeah.
may I ask you a question? I don't know who to address it to, but I'm curious if the state in their assessment of cesspools is differentiating the areas where people have put in independent wastewater systems. There are several and I just know from my own experience, my construction company, we did like 40 of them. Any houses were on the ocean, any houses within a certain distance. And even up in Waiahuli, Hawaiian Homes, simply because Hawaiian Homes was testing out a University of Hawaii system, Best Industries. So my guess, and maybe somebody could clarify it, is that they're going a cesspool as a cesspool and they're not necessarily differentiating. It doesn't significantly change the data or anything, but that's something that through your interaction with Department of Health, it'd be good if we could differentiate that, because I think that there are areas that if they can't hook up and they do change over, they need to change over to a treatment system and not simply a septic system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the more it's a great point, because the more that we can get people on a decentralized system, the more we can control and do the denitrification and monitoring that's required, instead of just individually having all these homeowners and we're not sure how many are doing it to scale, how many are doing it properly to code. And so, yeah, it's a great point. It's in the long run, I think that's the model for the state, that people are part of a system and they're just paying, sewer fees, and we have professionals that are monitoring it and protecting the environment and human health.
So I got one more question. Can I ask it?
Please.
I'm curious, and this is like, I don't know, when they say an injection well, like Ma'alaya, those are basically the definition of an injection well is deeper than it is in diameter, right? So they aren't like the Maui County injection well. They're actually pumping R1 water, thankfully, finally, down deep into the ground, as opposed to, I don't think they're doing that in Malaya, are they? They just have big cesspools that are deeper than diameter. Robin, does anybody know that? Are they pumping it in?
Yeah, maybe Kim or Robin or Tapani. Yeah, Robin.
I don't think anyone's pressurizing the sewage, so you're not actually pumping it in. I think it's all gravity flow, and as far as I know, in our injection wells. The injection wells at Ma'alaya, there's more of them and they are shallower. But we do know from evidence, chemical evidence and stable isotope tracers, that even when the water's injected deeper, because freshwater is buoyant and it's injected into a saltwater environment, it does bounce to the top near the shoreline. So we do know that even the deeper injection wells, that happens. And all of our water in Kihei is, at least last time I checked, not yet to R1 standards because they didn't have full disinfection capacity. So that's why they're still injecting a lot of it. But, you know, ideally we would learn and make provisions for reusing all of our wastewater. And sorry about the dog, guys.
Yeah, sorry. If I can weigh in on that, I was at the plant recently. Kihei and Lahaina are both fully UV at R1. So the water that they're pumping in is, unfortunately, because we don't have the transmission lines and the storage, they're still pumping R1 water that we could be using. But everything at the Kihei plant now is R1. The Kahului plant is not. They're in the process of, it was and it's not, because they don't have UV. And Gabe's still recently suggesting that it's sort of a cost benefit analysis. Do we want to get the Central Maui plant done? And anyway, we want to eliminate the Kahului plant. That's something I would love to see done, is the Kahului plant be all of that sewage pumped somewhere else.
Especially
So,
since in an inundation zone. And
for years people have wanted to move it. It just seemed to be prohibited, but now with the Waikapu Central Maui plant, that'll be able to be, in my lifetime, I think they'll be able to decommission the Kahului plant.
yeah,
So
that would be great. Thank you for your work on that. And just to remind people about like the health issues that are involved, we were part of the Lahaina injection wells case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. And Lahaina actually, like you said, was treating it very well. And so we were like, why are we focusing on, you know, some place that's doing such good treatment? And the point was, even with that level of high treatment, when it makes its way out, it's still killing the reefs. And we had, you know, a diver there, Kim might know who this is, who was photographing and documenting a lot of the coral. And her doctor basically said, you're going to have to stop. She got MRSA so many times. He's like, you're taking your life in your own hands. So even with that, what we want to do is keep that treated wastewater on the land and use it for things like, you know, fire prevention. And yeah, so I think that's much more beneficial use because the land can handle it and likes the nutrients. The ocean does not. Yeah.
let's pump it up. Let's pump it on the land.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And John made a good point. John Estilla in the chat that, you know, some of these, like especially if it's a gang cesspool or large capacity cesspool, you know, that the charges can go up to like 69,000 to convert it. But large capacity cesspools are governed by the EPA. Anything over 1,000 gallons per day is the EPA. Anything under is the Department of Health wastewater branch. Yeah, just as a distinction there.
I'm going to give John a second shout out. I'm also going to thank John for being here. John was part of our Work for Water program, and I'm really happy that he was able to join us and share some of this insight. He also posted in the chat, I recall seeing a figure stating that it would cost roughly $2 billion to convert all of the cesspools. Has there been any economic studies done to show the cost of not doing anything to help homeowners? What are the combined environmental cost, health costs to the community, the cost of impact to tourism? I feel like comparing those costs to the estimated $2 billion can help create a broader picture of economics of this issue and possibly help drive legislation to finance more conversions. That estimated number of $2 billion was calculated when we're talking about, on average, if we're saying about 25 to 45K on average per conversion, and we're talking about converting at least 83,000 cesspools, that's where we're getting to about 2 to 3 billion in terms of conversion costs. I think this is an excellent idea to have some studies, economic studies done to show the comparison of the cost of not converting these cesspools, especially the impact to tourism. These are great ideas, John. I'm not aware of too many that have been done. Does anyone have any that they might be able to speak to?
Kim?
Yeah, probably the best example is an example from Kona that was done by Leah Bremer. I can go back and look at the exact math on it, John, I'm sorry, but there was a really good example in that they tried to connect Kona, if you guys don't know, has thousands and thousands on a cliff and really volcanic soils, and so they connect straight into the water as well. But they were able to model everything from the discharge all the way down into the marine environment and then look for response on the reef. And how they did the cost of the upgrade, I mean, it becomes really complicated, right? It becomes complicated quickly, but at the very least, it looked at a watershed scale and what the source is and then what the impacts are on the reef, and then made it possible to start making those next linkages.
And Kim, remind me, what is the value of the reefs that they've determined? I think
It's in the billions. One mind shift that's happened for me is that the USGS was studying kind of the impact of losing your reef on sea level rise. And so this is for West Maui, this is for all the coastlines. And they found that if you lose a meter of your reef, then the impacts from sea level rise are some large percentage greater. And this is for Maui coast, it's for everybody's coast. And so instead of thinking about a sea level rise, sometimes I think about it instead as just reef loss, right? So if there is impacts from sea level rise, it might actually just be that you lost your reef. And sometimes I think of particular places, especially windward Oahu, or places where the roads are really, really at risk. That were there cesspools next to it? Okay, there probably are. And so your road is at risk if you have too much degradation to your reef.
And as we get towards, sorry, Gabby, we get towards the end, any final questions or comments that people would like to add?
Then I will take this opportunity to drop more information about our Work for Water program in the chat. And oh, mahalo nui. And so I will put this link in the chat if you are interested in Work for Water. Please go ahead and check that out. And of course, it's not going to link when I want it to. Here we go. And again, just a friendly reminder, if you are interested or you have community or network that you feel might benefit from this free course that provides networking and career opportunities and a $500 stipend, please let us know. And we would be happy to share some of our outreach materials with you as well. Any other final questions before we wrap up?
I might put a copy of the article that was recently in Hawaii Business Magazine in the chat, if you all want to check that out. Sorry, Gabby, go ahead.
No, I was just going to read Office of Councilmember Cook said, aloha all, thank you for your time this evening and for getting engaged on this important issue. Many mahalos to WAI for inviting the council member to participate and for their hard work in putting on tonight's event. If you would like to get connected with Maui County Councilmember Tom Cook's office, please visit, and they dropped this link tree here, https /link tr.ee /Tom Cook, and his email address and phone number is there as well. We can include that in our slides. We'll update our slides to include that. And we also have Stuart's article in here. Great. Have we been...
Yeah.
Yes, Audrey, we have been sending information to the high schools, and we actually are going to be following up to see if they might be interested in even having an assembly or some lesson plans. But if you happen to have a connection that you would like to help us get in with, we're finding that word of mouth or knowing somebody that knows somebody helps us to get a little bit more, let's say, help in entering and kind of just making those connections and spreading the word. So mahalo for that.
Yeah. And, based on the, the first cohort of people, we had a lot of people who were just very interested because they also, they're driven by environmental reasons, public health reasons. cultural reasons, but also they saw it as an entrepreneurial opportunity, you know, and so we're going to need more people, contractors, small family businesses that are located in Hawaii, you know, that can do a lot of this work. And so we really want to encourage people to explore this opportunity and get involved with this, because it's actually, like, you know, some people say it's $2 to 3 or $3 to $4 billion issue in Hawaii. So it really is a big deal, but it'll make our state more appealing. We'll catch up. And we are at this crossroads where we were the last state to, you know, outlaw cesspools and mandate their conversion. But we do have an opportunity to become a national leader in how we deal with it, because a lot of people just went to septic systems up and down the East Coast, and they're having to dig those up because there's so many harmful algal blooms, and whole fishing industries and shellfish industries have collapsed. So we want to be a leader on this and get it done so we can continue to be one of the top destinations in the world and a beautiful home for our, you know, for the people who live here. All right, well, I want to thank Senator McKelvey and Councilmember Cook for joining us, as well as Kim Falinski and Robin Knox, our resident water quality experts, and just all around good people, and all of you, you know, Caleb, John, all the people we're working with, Daniel, all those who have tuned in across the state, across the country. We really appreciate that. Some recent grads like Chris McKay and John Estilla from our Work for Water program are doing great work on Maui. We really want to thank you. I want to thank my team for being so awesome and putting together such a great presentation and doing it with a smile on their faces. So mahalo to you all, and we will follow up with a link to the recording and with the slides in our email. And if you want to join our, we'll have a link to join our newsletter as well, which only goes out like quarterly, so we won't spam your inbox.
Mahalo nui.
Thank you all.
Aloha.
Thank you
Aloha.
Have a
very,
great
very,
night,
very much.
everyone.
Mahalo, Councilmember Cook.
Well,
Thanks.
everybody.
Aloha.
Mahalo.